Hello, hello, and welcome once again. J76NY here, playing Suzerain, a political simulator, kind of a choose-your-own-adventure type of game. It is text-based, so consider this me reading the story of President Anton Rayne and his administration as they try to improve Sordland to various degrees of success. We are backlogged with news. We are backlogged with activities to attend to, and we are more than likely on the verge of war with Rumberg. So we are going to start reading our reports, then we're going to attend to the important matters of state of Sordland. Joseph Lancia reports that a Rumbergian warplane was shot down by anti-aircraft upon violating Sordish airspace. According to the report of the General Staff, the plane was flying over the town of Haljan inside Sordish borders and did not retreat upon warning. So a little backstory. Rumberg is this big country up here. I think it's supposed to represent the Soviet Union. From what I've heard, Sordland is roughly modeled on Turkey of the 1950s, so it is the dawning age of the Cold War when the Soviet Union was at probably the height of its power and influence. Read the report from Lockhaven. Lucien Galad organized an interview for the presidency on the international renowned One-on-One. The famous journalist Thomas Sacker will be asking the questions. The crew of One-on-One and Thomas Sacker will arrive next week in Lockhaven from Kroot. Okay. Vogslandian Navy spotted in full force in Helgeland. According to the intelligence reports, Vogslandian Navy gathered in full force around Helgeland, blockading the island. The reports warn about a possible violent conflict between Agnolian and Vogslandian forces. Sordish Navy in Conria is on standby. Okay, so Vogsland and Agnolia are bickering over this island right here. Things have become very heated. Let's read the report from Vogsland. It is being reported that the Vogslandian Navy has increased its presence along our shores, particularly at the Grey Straits. The already massive fleet patrolling the Markian Sea is now accompanied by a second one. According to our intelligence, Vogslandians are also installing defense systems with offensive capabilities on their southern shores. This poses a great danger for Holsord and the whole country. Alright. So world tension is up. What do we have to do here? Election speech at the USB headquarters. We're coming up on our re-election. We are about 2/3 of the way through our first term. USP conservatives try to obstruct administration. Sources from within the Grand National Assembly have informed us that the conservative wing of the USP seemed to be intently obstructing President Rayne's agenda, from failing to attend committee meetings to delaying bills that the president has attempted to push through. Gloria Tory and her fellow conservatives have no apparent motive other than blocking Rayne at every turn. Tory and the president are known to have clashed over the latter's constitutional reforms. Keebner condemns President Rayne. In a television interview, Kazaro Keebner, who is the leader of the National Front Party, condemned President Rayne for unbanning the Bludish Freedom Party, which he calls a separatist political movement with an aim to destroy the Sordish nation. President Rayne has just made the worst mistake of his term by revoking the ban on BFP. The Bluds are kind of the... I'm not really sure what to compare them to, but they are a ethnic and political minority in Sordland. They are not well liked. They are somewhat radical, but they are a part of Sordland nonetheless. Sordish plane shot down. I think that's a older article here. The election campaigning efforts have started to pick up speed across Sordland. To become the 5th president of Sordland, the candidates began delivering their speeches at rallies and conventions, while the party flags were flying in major cities. The campaign centers are busy with scheduling and organizing events. The exciting times of election are approaching. In the majority of cities, USP appears to be the most prominent, whereas PFJP, which is the People's Freedom and Justice Party, behind the NFP National Front Party, it will be a thrilling presidential race. Sordland today, Workers' Party leader poisoned. The leader of the Workers' Party of Bludia is rumored to be poisoned by a nerve agent on his way from Dyer to Sarna. The attack came after his speech in Dyer, when Ajal promised to clean Sordish politics from soulism. According to our sources, he was taken to a local hospital in Sarna where he lies in a coma. And the radical. Nationalists attempt to assassinate Ajal. Another story about this guy. WBP record membership numbers. According to the numbers released by the Workers' Party of Bludia, there is a massive increase in their membership, breaking a new record for the party. The polls also show that the popularity of the party has reached new heights in Berja and is expected to finish the first or second in the region of Berja. Ejal said in a public statement, Workers' Party is leading a great journey to the Maroon Palace, apparently before he was poisoned. Vogsland blockades Helgeland. We know all about that. It seems Chancellor Hagel decided to send troops into Helgeland and seize control on the island. But why does Helgeland matter to Vogsland? Located in the middle of the Markian Sea, Helgeland is strongly historical and cultural ties with Vogsland. It was Vogslandian territory before it was annexed by Agnolia years ago. Okay. Move along. We'll give our election speech. Now, each one of these situations offers a choice of between 3 and 4. The choices that you make affect the direction that the story goes. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. The sun was starting to peek through the blinds of my suite in the Grand Chariot Hotel in Anrica. I hadn't slept at all last night. I was too busy thinking about how I would rally my party's conservative base, who hates me, at today's election kickoff. I was just pulling on my clothes when 2 soft, sharp knocks came at the door. Lucian. He's my chief of staff, and he's walking in on me getting dressed. Good morning, sir. Morning, Lucian. I sat down in the suite. Some of the choices don't really affect it all that much, but some of them are pretty major. Lucian sat down in the suite's office chair and pulled a piece of paper from his jacket pocket. I just thought I'd drop off some talking points for your speech today. Much appreciated. Not a trouble at all. Ready to hit the campaign trail again? Are you sure you can take another 4 years of me? Let's joke around with the guy for a minute. Lucian's been kind of a tightwad, but he's done a fairly good job. I'm ready if you are, Mr. President. I'll see you at the rally. I almost forgot, the Archpriest of Dyer couldn't be present today, but wanted to relay a message of support to you and your family. What do you say? Seems I screwed up. Maybe that wasn't what I screwed up. I bless the rains down in Anrica. Okay. Lucian left the room. I finished putting on my tie and reread my notes for the morning's speech. A few hours later, I was waiting in the wings at the Norsord Auditorium in Anrica. In the audience were several thousand of my conservative supporters. Behind the podium hung a Sordish flag and a giant banner that read, I get to choose what the banner says. For a united Sordland, victory is close, peace, prosperity, and the Sordish way. For a united Sordland. There we go. Everybody cheered as I walked on stage. Though Mayor Curtin Lesty was now part of the opposition as a member of the NFP, it seemed most of Anrico was still on my side. Elbin gave a short speech introducing me, then it was my turn. I stepped behind the podium and took a deep breath. Brothers and sisters of the USP. Past 3.5 years have seen our country tested again and again. The past 3.5 years have been the hardest of my life. Over the past 3.5 years, many enemies have tried to destroy me and this fine country. That's true. At least from my perspective. Yet I stand before you now ready to pledge myself to God and Swordland yet again. Yet Swordland has prevailed. Under my administration, we are stronger than ever. Yet the Rayne administration stands strong, ready to lead Swordland to greatness once more. Swordland has prevailed. With my re-election, I will finish pulling Swordland's economy from the depths of recession. I've begun to fix the disastrous economic decisions of my predecessors. Together we will get the economic crisis under control. Sounds good to me. Under my presidency, we have enjoyed unprecedented harmony, which is definitely not true. Under my presidency, Sordish citizens have united like never before. Also not entirely true, but I will continue to defend Swordland against threats, whether internal or external. I will continue to seek retribution from our enemies, both at home and abroad. That seems kind of Hitler-esque. I will continue to fight for the constitutional reform Swordland deserves. Let's defend Swordland from threats. And I will continue to root out corruption and wrongdoing, even within the institutions we hold dear. I remain committed to stamping out the corruption that has plagued Sordish corporations for far too long. You may hear me smirking at this because I've taken several bribes. I do have skeletons in my closet. Thunderous applause erupted. Swordland has changed, but the USB remains as strong as ever. Some have accused me of straying from the values of the USB. To them I say, I am the USB. I am the one that knocks. We'll go with the first one. There has been tremendous progress made in this term, and more is to come. I promise you there is no way we can lose. I've devoted an unprecedented amount of effort towards making Swordland's economy the best in the world. We will not lose. More to come. I and Vice President Kelvin shall lead Swordland into a bright new era. The youth and determination of my new Vice President Albin Clavin shall help guide us into a brilliant future. There we go. The roar shook the hall. We will form a broad coalition of supporters to make sure morning finally comes. It is time, my fellow swords. A new dawn is upon us, and it begins right here and right now. Sounds good to me. So remember, vote Rayne in 57, a Morgana West Corps. It's time to get back on board the Rayne train. No. Rayne in 57. The audience roared as streamers shot out of the cannons behind me. My re-election campaign had officially begun. I stepped down from the podium. There we go. No news. Wow. Government budget increased. Holy shit, look at the economy. How did that happen? Wow. What the hell? Okay. Well, that was a shock. Improved transportation, Berger economy is stabilizing. Not entirely sure what just happened there with the economy, but it just took off like a rocket. And where'd our project go? We had a project going here. Maybe it opened. Briefing on the current economic situation. Well, here we go. An explanation. I arrived at the Ministry of Economy and proceeded upstairs. An assistant waiting by the door to the meeting room took my jacket. I opened the door and entered the largest boardroom in the building. Simon was sitting alone with a glass of water and his documents laid out before him. That's Simon Hall, my Minister of Economy. He stood up when I entered and approached me. After a quick handshake, I took a seat. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Good to see you. Now tell me what the hell just happened to the economy. And a knock was heard on the door, and Albin entered the room. That's Albin Clavin, my vice president. My second vice president. The first one had an affair with my secretary, who turned out to be a spy, so he jumped off a bridge. Sorry, I got held up. Did you start yet? No, Mr. Vice President, not yet. Now that everyone is here, let's begin. As you all know, we are here to review the economic progress we've made over the past term and decide how to proceed. I will brief you quickly on what we have done so far, just as a refresher. Alright. He gathered the documents in the pile in front of him and adjusted his glasses. From the pile, he produced 2 booklets and handed them to us. Our extra focus on the economy has resulted in some small-scale positive growth. The extra resources have been a boon to my ministry. It would be great if we followed up on this focus during our next term. Let's take a deep dive into the details now. Please turn to page 5. Turn to page 5. Let's start off with our economic plan. I'm glad to say that we are on track with our initial plan for a market economy. Most of our decisions so far have been pretty consistent. We need to keep it at it and make sure we follow through. I agree completely. We still have a lot to do. That's what I'm here for. Let's move on with the report. If I were to describe what we have done so far, I would say it is very close to a laissez-faire economic system. Please turn to page 16. I turn to page 16 titled Status of Trade and the Effects of Foreign Policy. I'm happy to say that our trade has increased since the beginning of our term. We are on the right path. More trade means a more vibrant economy, which means unbridled economic development. For better or worse, Sordland is becoming quite reliant on foreign economies. I don't see what is wrong with that. The world is moving towards globalization. I think they spelled that wrong. Maybe not. We might as well get a head start. Exactly. This isn't necessarily a negative. I don't see what's wrong with the little extra alliance of our allies and neighbors. We need to fix this issue as soon as possible. I don't see what's wrong with it, but we should probably find a new, like a balance, but I had to make a choice between one or the other, so we'll have to carefully consider that matter during our second term. Please turn to page 17. In our attempt to repair Sordland's economic system, we went for a mixed approach. We tried to cater to the needs of both businesses and Sordish citizens. It's been a delicate balance. Thankfully, living standards are steadily increasing. We've been receiving fewer and fewer complaints about our welfare system. Thankfully, living standards are steadily increasing. We've been receiving fewer and fewer complaints about our welfare systems. That's terrific, both for the people of Sordland and for our re-election prospects. Exactly. Some of our industries have also been knocked down to their knees by our recent taxation. The demand for these goods have decreased drastically, which led to businesses in these industries being shut down. Some people are calling the government out for infringing on their personal liberty. Apparently, some even filed lawsuits saying the taxes violate their human dignity. Their lawyers argue for them that they need it for mental health treatment. Okay. Now to page 34. Our production rate has gone down since the beginning of the term. We are at a low point right now. Whose fault is that? Someone must be to blame. Then we need to fix it as soon as possible. I need everyone on this next term. We had to make sacrifices and cuts. We need to fix this as soon as possible. I'll note that down. Moving on to logistics. Our situation has improved above and beyond our expectations. Our infrastructure projects have paid off in the long term. Smoother commutes, easier access, faster delivery times, everybody's happy. We are very close to the end. I want to talk about a few numbers. Please turn to page 55. I've prepared a chart. Our inflation rate is currently at an amazing 2%, down from 7%. It's the lowest Sordland has ever seen. Out of nowhere. Just like that. The Sordish Wren's value has been largely maintained and consumer prices have been stabilized. Good news for the Sordish people. We are writing history here. I like that. Or there's nothing more important than the well-being of our citizens. We'll go with the history one. I like that. Mr. President, do you have any questions so far? Apparently I do. I have 4 questions. Or 3. What's our debt situation? Our debt is at 310 billion Sordish Ren, down from 420 billion Sordish Ren at the beginning of our term. We managed to bring it down quite a bit. As a result, international investment has increased along with our government budget. Okay. How are we doing on unemployment? The unemployment rate remains steady at 16%. The change is mostly due to our lack of investments in economic planning. What about our GDP? Our GDP is at 314 billion Sordish Ren. Not much more than the 310 billion Sordish Ren we had at the beginning of our term. As per the latest stats, the economy has remained at a similar level over the last 4 years. In short, our economical capacity has not changed much at all. Those are all the questions I had. Very well. I want to quickly highlight our budget expenditures. My numbers indicate that overall we have been fairly balanced in spending our government budget. A balanced approach is good, however, we shouldn't forget that money that is not spent is just pieces of paper. Now that that's out of the way, during our first term we have faced many challenges in the midst of a recession. We have worked hard to fight against the odds, but we couldn't accomplish much. You may have surmised that from the data I've given you that we have not yet been able to end the recession. All the blame falls on your shoulders as Minister of Economy, Simon. You will resign before the next term. That seems kind of harsh. We've all done all we could. Now it's time to look to the future and try to fix our mistakes. Or this is my fault. I made the decisions that led us here. No. I'm not going to take the blame for all of that. Even if it is my fault, I'm a politician after all, so we'll just kind of gloss over it, kind of spread things out evenly, and look to the future. With a team like this, we will, I'm sure of it. Mr. Positive, Elbin Clavin. No offense, but the previous vice president doesn't exactly strike me as an economic mastermind. Things should run more smoothly with me on board. We will get through this together. That is all for our meeting today. Thank you for coming. The meeting dispersed. I hurried to the cafeteria to get a cup of coffee. Alright. Still no news to read. We've got one big issue here in Lock Haven. Scheduled television interview. There we go. Let's read these reports. Celebration. Many of the locals in Suzerain gathered at the city square to celebrate the revocation of the ban on the Bludish Freedom Party. The mayor of Suzerain reported that the amnesty and revocation were greeted by the Suzerains with festivities. Dancing and singing continued well into the night. So they're happy. Bludish Freedom Party starts campaigning. Bludish Freedom Party joined the election race immediately after being legalized. The BFP announced that Ramzo Kojak will be the party's presidential candidate. Economic stabilization hampered by racial tension. The mayor of Sarna reported some economic growth. He expressed his gratitude for the investment of the government in the region. However, the multicultural city of Sarna is still struggling with social problems. Tensions between the Bludish people and the local Sords is still high. Alright. NFP welcomes General Luderan's son. The National Front Party has welcomed General Luderan's son into their midst today in Holsword. Seeing a Luderan back in politics is shocking to many citizens. General Luderan infamously organized the military coup against former President Wissy. Okay. That led to the Sordish Civil War. Mr. Keebner has organized the event to appeal to his voter base. This is a symbolic step for the NFP, as Ludiran was arguably the most well-known nationalist in Sordland. The city of Morble reported economic growth to increase by 10%. Locals praised the central government's efforts in reviving Lauren. However, the economic potential of the city isn't fully realized. The flow of goods and materials between Holsord and Morna is one of the main factors keeping the local economy afloat. HOS aids election campaign. Marcel Carantes, HOS Advertising, the biggest advertising agency in Sordland, volunteered to help with the election campaign. They will provide consulting and design work for campaign material. The agency will also produce video material for television, which will be televised extensively by channels owned by HOS Media. Alright. Amnesty given to thousands. Together with the revocation of the ban on the BFP and the subsequent amnesty, about 6,000 people who were arrested in the 30s and 40s for their ties to Bludish Freedom Front have now been released. 72 high-profile Bludish political protesters who were being held up in maximum security Antal Rock prison were also released. Okay. Langkurg depends on fish exports to grow. Langkurg's docks reported fishing revenues to increase by 30%. That's pretty good. Business owners and fisheries commended the administrative push to strengthen the economy. Langkurg and Agneland's problems are not yet solved, however, as analysts show the city is barely recovering to pre-recession levels of economic activity. Growth takes time, guys. Let's read the report from Lockhaven. As the 1957 election starts to approach, Franz Richter and the People's Freedom and Justice Party are making waves in Lockhaven. Their campaign slogan, "Victory for Everybody," covered the city after a campaign visit to the city. The PFJP has been the United Sordland Party's major opposition since their formation, each year earning a higher percentage of the votes. Alright, time for a television interview. Makeup crew had just finished their preparation for the interview. Lucian stopped me on my way out to the balcony of the Blue Mansion where the filming crew was standing ready to start filming. "Are you ready for the interview, sir?" I don't think this was a good idea. I think they're going to try and trap me. Well, I'm going to make that known. "Trust me, sir, I have done my best to make this happen. This is very important for our administration. The crew is ready to start filming. Mr. Sacker is excited to interview you. As I explained before, it would be bad press to decline this interview offer. I didn't have a choice, so there we go." And they're from Kroot. The country is known for its neutrality. I don't think there will be too much pressure. I hope so. I walked to the balcony and sat on the seat prepared for me directly in front of Mr. Sacker. Twamish Sacker. "Mr. President, welcome to One-on-One. Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you. Let us begin with the latest incident between Sordland and Rumburg. An aircraft of the Sordish Air Force was shot down by Rumburgian anti-air guns a few weeks ago. Officials from the Rumburgian government proclaimed that the aircraft was flying inside the space of Rumburg. Just a few days after the incident, Sordish anti-air guns shot down a Rumburgian airplane. This time, your government proclaimed exactly the same thing while the Rumburgian government insisted that their plane was inside their airspace. Many argue that this was not a coincidence and the Sordish army acted intentionally in retaliation. Did you give such an order?" No, I didn't. That's a lie. Our forces only acted in response to their breach of our airspace. Yes, it was done in retaliation. They attacked us first illegally inside our own borders. Their claim is nonsense. Our plane was shot down inside our borders. I'm going to go with that one. But what about the attack from your side? It doesn't seem like an accident. Why aren't you asking me about the first attack? They started all of this. Their plane breached our airspace and our forces only acted in response to that. It was not an accident. It was done in retaliation. So I'm going to come out either... This is the option where if I come right out, I think we're going to be in a war pretty freaking quick. So let's go with this middle one. Are you saying that the Rumburgian officials are lying? Are you absolutely certain that their plane was inside Sordish airspace? Why aren't you asking about the first attacks? They started all of this. I'm absolutely sure they breached our airspace. Do you believe that these harassments could lead to an actual war between Sordland and Rumburg in the future? I honestly doubt that. I believe that's what Rumburg wants. They have been working to get a justifications for such an action. We will have to see. But if they want war, we will give them war. Okay. We are willing to do what it takes not to create a conflict. I'm going to go with this one. I think that's what they want. This week, the Arcasian government has condemned Rumburg for their actions against Sordland. That's good to know. Now that Sordland is also a member of the ATO, do you think this would deter Rumburg from creating a broader conflict? That's not even a question. Queen Beatrice is not crazy enough to go against the whole ATO. Yes, it will surely deter them from creating a war, but they will likely continue their harassment in other ways. I'm not sure. Rumburg sees itself as the third superpower of this world. We can expect anything from them. I'll go with that one. You have also earlier claimed that Rumburg has been spying on your administration, and the alleged spy was none other than your own secretary. Rumburg has since denied all your claims. He stared into my eyes, awaiting a response. We have all the evidence it was them. The world should know about Rumburgian interference with its neighbors. And of course they deny it. This is a very serious accusation, Mr. President. Well, the scandal caused by that resulted in Mr. Vectorn leaving his office. He was blamed and you appointed a new vice president. Many claim that this was just an internal political move designed to eliminate the vice president. What do you have to say about these accusations? I just laugh at these baseless accusations. I talked about this in detail in the past. You can check what I've said. We recently lost Mr. Vectorn. I don't appreciate you asking me such a question. He was a friend of mine. I know you were very close, Mr. Rayne. My condolences. But I didn't get an answer to my question. Well, this one is technically true. So I didn't do it just strictly for political reasons, although they did play a large part in the decision. Peter was guilty of leaking classified information to a foreign spy, so... But don't you think you are partly to blame? She was your secretary. It was going on right under your nose. I'm going to go with this one because it's honestly the best answer I can give. To some extent, yes, all of our administration shares the responsibility for letting such a scandal take place. He didn't look like he was satisfied by my response. He stopped for a moment and took a brief look at his papers. Okay, let's return back to your foreign policy. Let's talk about the ongoing conflict about the Helgeland Islands. Sordland is not officially taking any sides between Agnolia and Vogsland. So far, you have refrained from making any statements about the conflict. According to reports from yesterday, Vogslandian Navy have finally attacked the Agnolian fleet at Helgeland Island. Today, Prime Minister Van Horten announced that the island is indeed under an invasion. He said Vogslandian troops landed on the island. So here's my question. What is and will be the role of Sordland in this conflict? Sordland has or will have no role in this conflict. We are not taking sides. We stand by Vogsland. We stand by the people of Helgeland. Or we stand with the Agnolian government. We're going to stay neutral. We've got our own problems. Would Sordland also get involved if the situation gets out of control? As a peacekeeping force, yes. We can't let the Marquian Sea turn into a war zone. I hope the situation won't come to that. That's the vaguest response that I am offered. I want to stay vague on that because I don't need a two-front war if that's what it boils down to. Ask Germany how that works out. But what if it does? It won't. Okay, let's move on to another topic. Last year, a huge conflict took place close to your borders with Wayland, when the Wessex forces partook in a massacre of Bludish civilians under the guise of eliminating the Bludish Freedom Front. Sordland decided to watch the atrocities take place. In fact, you not only closed the border to the refugees fleeing from a massacre, your border guards worked in cooperation with the Wessex forces. Will you accept responsibility of thousands of lives that were lost in Wayland? Of course not. We had nothing to do with what went on inside Wayland. We only protected our borders. It's true we worked with Mr. Smolak, but I don't think anyone can blame Sordland for protecting its borders. We're going to go with number 3. It breaks my heart to see so many people die in Wayland. Could we have done something? Definitely. But the conflict has nothing to do with us. Many have criticized Sordland for its role in this conflict. Do you not accept any of the criticisms? No, there's nothing wrong with protecting our country, our role. Really, why don't you ask Mr. Smolak these questions? Sure, we could have helped the refugees, but then again, how do we distinguish civilian from militants? Go with number 3. You could have, on the gesture, the director, he stopped before finishing a sentence. Well, it seems that's all the time we have for today. The director shouted at the crew to stop recording. We both stood up and shook hands. Thank you for your valuable time, Mr. President. It was a pleasure. Can't say the same, you dick. Hopefully next time we will meet in Crute. No idea where that is, but sounds like a fun place to go. And I'd always be welcome in Crute. Lucian walked up to the director and started talking to him. I went inside the building. All right. Well, now we've got some news to read. Let's go through the business of reading reports first. Leader of the Workers' Party of Bludia was poisoned. We already know that. Bludish opinion high. For the first time in Sordish history, the Bludish people have come out in support of the sitting president. That's me. Good for me. Apparently they didn't see the interview where they brought up the old letting the Bludish refugees get slaughtered thing. Maybe they don't have TVs. Well, whatever. Thanks to President Rayne's policies and actions during his first term, sentiment for the president in Dire has been incredibly high. Earning the Bludish vote in the upcoming election may be crucial for re-election. Lukewarm PR visit. Following a brief visit to Lockhaven, the president spent the afternoon meeting local citizens at Republic Avenue. Some Swords choose to voice their disapproval of the administration, but President Rayne handled the dissenting voices well, earning further loyalty from his base supporters. Oh, things are going good for President Rayne. Alright, what do we have to do here? Early morning at the Rayne household. Read the report from Wholesword. Let's read the report from Wholesword. According to the report from the capital, Due to the serious conditions of Ajal, the leadership of the Workers' Party of Bludia held an emergency meeting in their party headquarters in Holsword to appoint a new leader as their presidential candidate. After the meeting, the party invited this guy to their headquarters. We actually kind of get along, so that's going to suck if he decides to run against me. Read the newspapers. Workers' Party announces Lecky as a replacement. Well, that sucks. Complicates things. Monsoon. Lecky is back at the WBP. Radical. Rayne. Raynomics. There we go. Raynomics improve living standards. Hey, the Radical likes us now. That's great. At the end of his term, President Rayne has brought more changes to Sordland than ever, albeit not all are positive, yet the situation with Sordland's living standards has increased. Based on new research, Sordish citizens' life expectancy is at its highest in history. The president's policies have given every person the same economic opportunities to strive forward. It is the most excellent news for any Sordish resident since the forming of the Republic. Cool. Sordland economy stagnates in mud? Really? What do you call this? Even since President Rayne entered the... I think it's supposed to be ever since. Entered the Maroon Palace, nothing has changed. We are still where we were the moment we nominated him. In an economic depression where businesses are closing left and right, investors chased away over our lack of response to economic failure. Either the president lacks the competency of a leader, well, I don't think they're going to be voting for me. Vogsland occupies Helgeland. After the surrender, Chancellor Hagel has reclaimed Helgeland as a part of Vogsland and describes the events as the triumph of freedom and reversal of historic injustice. Agnolian leader Van Horten condemned the invasion and the AN for leaving Agnolia alone and not interfering. This was a drastic first step of Vogslandian and Malinovistic invasion of Eastern Mercopa, and I'm warning those who allowed them to do this. This is how liberty dies, he said. Agnolian Navy has also returned back to Stalport after a brief firefight with the Vogslandian forces. Alright, so all in all, a pretty good day in the life of Anton Rayne. This looks promising. Usually it's been 1 or 2 bars. I think the highest it was 3, and it was red. So having almost the full thing filled up with green makes me happy. Oops. I don't think we have anything more to attend to right now. And the next order of business is morning at the Rayne breakfast table. So we are going to save that one for the next episode and start a new day. Hopefully our good progress that we made in this episode, continues on into the next day. If you, kind viewer, would be so kind as to hit that like button if you think the episode was worth it. It will help the series and my growing channel out. Take a second to welcome all the new subscribers. Up to, I think, like 316, 317. So I hope you guys are enjoying the content, and I do very much appreciate your support. If you are not yet subscribed, would like to join us, wouldn't mind having you. This is not the typical type of game I play. I usually play war games, strategy games, stuff like that. But I'm really enjoying this playthrough. I've got 2 more playthroughs of Suzerain in mind for after this, as well as a bunch of other stuff for the channel, so you might want to hit that little button right there in the middle and come along with us. As always, leave your thoughts, tips, and advice in the comments section below. J76NY saying thank you very much for watching, and have yourself a very good day.